Could the Lions find themselves making a trade for an all-pro receiver this year? Let's talk about it. Hi, I'm Mike Payton with A to Z Sports Detroit, and I'm here to talk to you about the potential of Davante Adams coming to the Detroit Lions. Let's start on the cost side of things. So, as we know, Brad Holmes has been more of a cheaper GM in the past few years. He's built really well through the draft, but I don't think that that necessarily means that he will never spend money on a player or he will never trade big assets for a player that is, somebody that has an astronomical contract or somebody that, is a Pro Bowler, All Pro, what have you. It may seem like that's the way that the Lions are always going to be, but I've always thought that the Lions would be kind of like what the Rams would did. They built through the draft, then they started going out spending money. They got the Ndamukong Suhs, the Jalen Ramseys of the world, Matthew Stafford. They made a lot of big moves under Les Snead. Brad Holmes and assistant GM Ray Agnew were both in Los Angeles with Les Snead. I had a chance to ask Holmes about this during the NFL Combine, and Holmes said a lot to the effect of, we are not quite at that point yet. We still want to continue to build through the draft, and then we will have a chance to be more selective. And by selective, he means we're going to eventually start spending money and trading assets to make this happen. And that shouldn't come as any surprise to any Lions fan when that eventually happens. Now, with Adams, can the Lions afford to bring him on this year? Absolutely. He's coming in with a $16.9 million salary. Lions could absolutely afford to pay that. They have over $40 million in cap space right now as we speak. Where it gets tricky is in 2025 and 2026. He's owed $35 million in 2025, $35 million in 2026. That is a lot of money. If the Lions were to bring in Adams, they would have to make a restructure of his contract, try to push some of that money off down the road, maybe try to guarantee some of it. But it's a lot to try to get that $35 million over the next 2 years kind of pushed off into a different way. And you're probably locking Adams up for a longer time. And then there could be some dead cap down the line when you decide to move on from him. In terms of trade value, in terms of what the Raiders want, they want a second round pick and some more value. They could want that all day. That certainly does not mean they're going to get it. While I understand that Adams was at one point in time, 2 years ago, probably the best receiver in the entire NFL, he's not that anymore. He's a 32-year-old receiver who's been declining over the last 2 seasons. Had a good second half to the year after Jimmy Garoppolo got benched, which if you watch the Netflix Receivers documentary, you could see just how badly Adams wanted that to happen. So far this year, he has a 209 yards and a touchdown. It's not anything crazy to shake a stick at in over 4 games, but it's clear that it's not working out for Adams. I think they'll get a lot like what the Chargers got when they traded Keenan Allen to the Bears, which was a 4th round pick. But considering that Adams is a much better receiver than Allen is, I think that it's fair to say that the Raiders could get a little bit more than that. So the offer that I suggested in an article that I wrote this week was the Lions would trade a 2026 3rd-round pick and a 2025 5th-round pick to get Adams to Detroit. I think that's more than enough. That's a solid get for the Raiders because that is going to allow them to continue to rebuild through the draft. This is a team that needs to basically start all over again. It's just not working out with anything. They'll probably wind up trading Max Crosby at some point too. So I think this team is going to be a total teardown. But in order to do that, they're going to have to sell a little bit low on some players. Now, would the Lions actually do it? While I did say earlier in this video that I think Brad Holmes will eventually start to spend that money and eventually you'll start to see more selections to be made, more, the Lions having a more selective process, getting guys to come in. I don't think that's going to be right now. That 2025 and 2026 numbers, those are just too high. It's hard to fight against that. So for now, I don't think the Lions would make a move like this. But at the same time, I wouldn't be shocked if they did. Follow all our content at A to Z Sports Detroit. We've got more stuff coming for you next week. We'll see you then.